Israel understands war better perhaps than any other country. It's been fighting one since its creation in 1948. As its war against Hamas crosses the 200-day mark, it's been publicly and repeatedly announcing that its next offensive will be in Rafah. This is where Palestinians driven out of destroyed Gaza have taken shelter. That's not a mystery, although combatants rarely make their intentions so public. The big question and the big mystery is, why is Israel holding consultations about an offensive against Arab Palestinians with Arab Egypt? What is this mystery? Why are Ronen Bar, who is the head of Israeli security agency, the Shin Bet, and Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, who is the IDF chief of staff, in Cairo and discussing what will happen? Has Egypt become an ally of Israel against Hamas? That's clearly not so. Then why is Israel discussing war preparations against Palestinians with Egypt? What are the two talking about? Well, let me first bring you up to date with the latest events here. Preparations for the Rafah offensive are in full swing. 2 reserve brigades of the IDF are being deployed to Gaza. Tents have sprung up in at least 2 places, the west of Khan Yunis and near Rafah. The invasion of Rafah is now just a matter of time. Israeli media says it's going to happen very soon. But mysteries remain, and we're addressing them tonight. Starting with the question, what will the offensive look like? IDF has said that the reserve brigades that are being deployed to Gaza have practiced battle technique and learned the main insights and lessons from fighting and maneuvering in the Gaza Strip so far. Basically, what we're staring at is a full-voltage, deadly urban warfare. Just look at where Rafah is. It's in the south of the Gaza Strip. To its north is Khan Yunis. To its south is Egypt. The North Sinai Governorate, if I must be more specific here. Rafah shares a border with Egypt. Rafah is also the only city in Gaza that the Israeli military has not entered. Why then does Israel want to go in now? What is the point of the Rafah offensive? Israel claims Hamas is camping in Rafah. The IDF claims there are 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah. Of course, there is no way to verify this claim, but I will tell you what's verified and what's true. Over 1 million Palestinians are sheltering in Rafah. They are living in camps in Rafah, not voluntarily. Israeli military made these Palestinians move to Rafah when the war began. The IDF dropped pamphlets in northern Gaza asking people to leave, to move to south. The north wasn't safe anymore, they were told. It would be bombed. So these Palestinians packed what they could and walked to Rafah with young children and aging parents. These people became refugees in Rafah. Now Israel wants them to move back. It says Rafah is not safe anymore because it will be invaded and raided. Where will these people go? Their homes in the north have been reduced to rubble, which brings me back to the question, where will the Palestinians living in Rafah go? Israel has reportedly bought 40,000 tents. But how will they accommodate 1 million plus people? Also, where is the guarantee that these tents won't be caught in the crossfire? Here's what we know so far about the Rafah offensive. First, civilians will be moved to Khan Yunis and the coastal area of Al-Mawasi. 2, Israeli troops would reportedly enter Rafah in stages. 3, the operation would be gradual. The IDF would be going neighborhood by neighborhood. Israel is not looking at an all-out offensive. At least that is the plan. American media reports say the IDF presented to the US Department of Defense in a Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. That was the plan. 4, reports quoting Egyptian officials say the fighting may last about 6 weeks. How do you think Egypt knows this? Because Israel has been discussing the Rafah offensive with Egypt for months now. Now, yesterday, Israeli officials visited Egypt. Ronen Bar, who is the head of Israeli security agency, the Shin Bet, was in Egypt. The IDF chief of staff, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, was in Egypt. This is the second time these 2 men are visiting Egypt since the start of the war. Their last visit was in mid-February. Back then, too, they had discussed Rafah. Who did these Israeli officials meet this time? Egyptian intelligence chief Abbal Kamel and Egypt's chief of staff Osama Askar. You see, what's happening here is unprecedented. When was the last time you saw Israel discuss an Arab offensive with another Arab country? I'll answer that for you. Never. So why now? Was this discussion a part of some back-channel deal? Last week, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the United States, and I'm quoting here, cannot support a military operation in Rafah. Cut to today, US President Joe Biden has signed a $94 billion foreign funding bill. Who benefits? Ukraine, Taiwan and Israel. It will be getting an additional $17 billion in aid. So was keeping Egypt in the loop on Rafah part of this deal? Did the United States not want Israelis to act unilaterally? Did the Biden administration tell Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he cannot send troops into Rafah without talking to Egypt about its plan? You know, because it's literally too close to home for Egypt. Tell me one thing, what are the Israelis and Egyptians even discussing? Safety? Civilian casualty? Because there's bound to be civilian casualty in Rafah. That's the least the war in Gaza so far has taught us. This war has no limits. Innocents will die. Like I was telling you, Israeli officials claim there are 4 battalions of the Hamas in Rafah, adding that their numbers have been reinforced because fighters from across Gaza have now joined these battalions in Rafah. One of Israel's top military officers told a local news channel that Hamas will, quote-unquote, be hit hard in Rafah. Now I have a question, and it's a simple one. How will you tell a Hamas fighter from a refugee in Rafah? Palestinians are already dying from Israeli airstrikes on Rafah. 34,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza since the start of the war. More women and children and the wounded will lose their lives when Israel raids Rafah. So if Israel has already made up its mind about the offensive, which it has, what's left then for the Egyptians to say? Perhaps don't send refugees to Sinai? Reports say that's literally the concern that was raised by the Egyptian officials during that meeting in Cairo yesterday. Egypt is concerned about tens of thousands of Palestinian refugees entering their territory. They're talking about a possible breach of the border. They're talking about the possible endangering of Egyptian security. Reports say Egyptian officials told their Israeli counterpart that should such a situation arise, it would lead to a rupture in relations with Israel. Egypt has warned that the refugee situation could also jeopardize the peace agreement between the two countries. And you know what's strange? All parties here are getting a say, even those who are not involved or affected by this war. But the people who are actually in the front line, whose homes are being bombed, whose loved ones are being killed, they have no say, they have no choice. They must move from the north to the south and now back to the north, all within 6 war-torn months. Also, no one is guaranteeing their safety. Just FYI, fighting has renewed in parts of northern Gaza. So that's an overview of the strange mystery of the Rafah offensive. What is Hamas saying in all of this? One of its top leaders, Khalil al-Hayya, said that Hamas is ready to lay down. In return, an independent Palestinian state must be established along pre-1967 borders. In short, Hamas is demanding that the two-state solution be implemented. Is Israel interested? Currently, its focus is Rafah. For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.